Well, hello and welcome to the Matt Powers Show, one and all, a nerd culture podcast about everything movies, TV, comic books, video games, and more. I am your titular host, Matt Powers, a once-upon-a-time superhero who battled villains and saved the world. That is, until they passed those anti-superhero acts in Congress, and now, like all elder millennials, I am trapped living in my mother's basement, podcasting about nerd stuff. But never mind me, you're here for the review, and boy, do we have a great movie for review today. But before we begin, I want to say a few quick words regarding how we score movies on this channel. Now, I'll have a more in-depth explanation up as a video in due time, but until then, it's important for you to see the inner workings of what this process is like. The overall score I give something is a something out of 5, but that doesn't mean that I'm only looking at 5 different categories. In fact, I'm looking at 10 different categories, each with a point system of their own that's 1 to 5. Now, I tally it all up, and based on the final number, that translates into the final score. But that score is not an acumen to how good a movie is. It's just a way to rank it against other films. In addition to the out of 5 score, I also have a scale from bad to good, with a few levels in between. This way, a movie can score low on the overall scale, but still be considered good, albeit with some flaws that we need to acknowledge. So, 5-point scale for ranking purposes, but another level of distinction is either bad, good, or something in between. Everybody got that? Alright. In a world where heroes like Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman can be called in at a moment's notice, we're going to forego them and instead focus on a team of would-be villains who were so bad at what they do, they were caught and sent to prison. But they can get decades taken off their sentence if they join up with Task Force X, otherwise known as the Suicide Squad. This is, of course, a second entry to the franchise. Though not a direct sequel, the events of the first movie did happen in canon. This film is just more Suicide Squad for the Dirty Dozen lovers in the audience, and this time around, James Gunn of Guardians of the Galaxy fame takes the helm, and the differences in films couldn't be more night and day. So strap on your favorite superweapon and prepare as we discuss the Suicide Squad. Let's get this out of the way first. This film is leagues better than its predecessor, and that's coming from a fan of the first movie. I liked the original Suicide Squad, or maybe I should say, I liked the director's cut of the original Suicide Squad. I thought the characters were fun, the story was fulfilling, and the overall idea to blend Dirty Dozen with superheroes is genius. But that aside, this is the superior film. From the get-go, we're given a whole new appreciation of the genre. The Suicide Squad is now a brand. Any supervillains can reduce their sentence by decades if they join up for missions, and just like the name entails, they do so. To do so is surely suicide. Don't get too fond of any particular characters in this movie. James Gunn was given carte blanche to kill whomever he wanted, and he does not fear killing off characters. I can't really tell you anything about the mission that the squad is on, because that's just too many spoilers in all of it. It's a very tight script. Each character has a journey to take, and it feels like everyone is served well in that. But then again, you have to remember James Gunn, his success at the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, that he has proven he can handle an ensemble cast with many moving parts. Everyone gives their A-game in this. Even Pete Davidson, who no one will ever mistake for being an actual actor, manages to tone down his ridiculousness and provide some top-notch acting. Everyone gets their day in this film, and I loved that. I loved watching the interactions between characters and how each of the squad brings not only a different backstory to the table, but uses those interactions to help inform them on how to move forward with their own characters. It's a sense of agency that's sorely been missing from these kinds of films, and Gunn nails it. As with any James Gunn film, there are some really interesting directorial choices which are made. From some early nauseating spins and turns during a particularly tumultuous scene, up through a fistfight that's seen in the reflection of a helmet, Gunn does not waste any opportunity to ask how he can shoot the scene better. Stylized chapter introductions will help identify where in the story we are, much as the music and character introductions from the previous films were meant to feel like a video game introduction to the squad. This time around, Gunn uses the environment in bizarre, albeit beautiful ways, to illustrate what the next step of the journey will entail. And the music is pure James Gunn flair. He's calling this his war movie, and it felt right at home with the likes of films like Kelly's Heroes or MASH. Conflicting themes inside the film, and then the music helps pontificate everything around it. Look for subtle clues in the music to see if you can deduce what's about to happen. And this did have to be one of the largest marketed films in recent memory. There were so many trailers, I was worried too much had been spoiled. Of course, I should have trusted James Gunn. The marketing really sells this film well, and you're not really left to worry that the movie is hollow or less than what's been presented in the trailers. There's a lot more going on in this story than you have seen in any of the marketing, and I appreciated that. Of course, I always ask myself, did you enjoy the movie? It's a fair question, as some films are just downright slogs to get through. Even fun films at first can suddenly abandon the fun for a lengthy middle that crawls along. This film did not do any of that, however, and was a joy to watch from start to finish. Oh, which brings up something important I want to address. Since there's too much risk right now in my area for the Delta variant of COVID, I elected to watch this film at home on HBO Max. And while I was able to watch the movie just fine, there are a couple serious issues with HBO's Max's app that I want to address. To begin with, there was no option for subtitles. I cannot stand watching a film without subtitles. Besides the fact that my air conditioner is loud as hell and I can't hear the movie without turning it up so loud that it's too loud for an apartment, or for my mom's basement, I sometimes struggle with everything that's being said. I need to read it to reinforce what I just heard. It is appalling that HBO Max wouldn't have this option for me. Maybe it was because it was within the launch hour of the film and they didn't want spoilers to be available, but even still, I cannot imagine why they would omit this function in the app. But even worse is that this lack of ability on the app to fast forward or rewind successfully. Now, I watched HBO Max on my PlayStation 4, and once a movie is started in HBO Max on the PlayStation 4, it's nearly impossible to get the app to respond to any button inputs. I tried for several minutes when the credits began to roll to fast forward or pause or rewind to see if there were any post-credit scenes, but the app just froze up because HBO Max is total garbage on the PlayStation. I seriously hope it's not that bad on an Xbox or on the browser. I haven't really tested it out there yet, but considering the first issue with the lack of subtitles, I might suggest people just steer clear of using the HBO Max app altogether. It's not worth the hassle. And a quick edit, after I wrote this, I did go on a browser to see if I could fast forward, which I was able to do. Yes, there's a post-credit scene, and it is worth watching. Whew, that was a lot to say. Seriously, this movie is good. A throwback war film that felt more like The Dirty Dozen than a superhero movie. Every character had their place, every moment felt earned, every twist caught me off guard. And yes, lots of people are gonna die. You will be quite shocked as to who some of the characters are that die. But again, that was something that James Gunn wanted in order to make this film, was the unrestricted ability to kill whomever he wanted. All this being said, the movie is definitely a must-see watch. I would classify it as good, my highest ranking of the quality of a film. And because all the pieces fit together nicely, I'm inclined to give The Suicide Squad a 5 out of 5. Oh, and this movie is a hard R, by the way. Not for young kids. Unlike the first film, this one does not shy away from violence or gore. If you do go see it, come back and let me know what you thought. And if you watch it on HBO Max, let me know if you too are having issues with their app as well. And where you watch it. Maybe the Xbox version is better than the PlayStation. I don't know. But thanks again for coming and listening. Make sure you like the video. It's a huge help for me. I know you hear it from all of us, but it is a big step for me towards showing that my channel is growing. I love you all, and I'll see you during my next review. But for now, this is Matt Power saying, nerd out.